calling the 268th meeting of the Equal Employment Practices Commission to order. If Executive Director Jean Victor can please call the roll.
Chair and Commissioner Aldrin Benia,
Present.
Vice Chair and Commissioner Elaine Reese,
Here.
Commissioner Macosta Alcantara,
Here.
Commissioner Nicole Yearwood,
Here.
and Commissioner Ngozi Okara.
When Commissioner Ngozi Okara arrives, we'll make sure we note that for the record.
Yes.
The 268th AEPC Commission meeting is being held September 14th, 2023, and is being live streamed in accordance to local law. The next point of the agenda is the approval of the minutes. Do we have a motion to approve the minutes for July 20th, 2023?
I move to approve them.
We have Commissioner Reese moves to approve, Commissioner Alcantara seconds. Any comments, friendly revisions or anything to the minutes? Okay, all in favor of approval of the minutes, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Yay? Any abstentions? Okay, the approval of the minute motion passes. Next, we have the approval of audit resolutions to 2023 final determination resolutions. 10 determinations. For this, I'll turn to Executive Director Jean Victor, correct?
Yes. Do you want me to read all the resolutions?
In terms of the agency?
Yes.
Yes, please.
Okay, so today we have 10 final determination resolutions for your approval. We have resolution number 1, it's number 2023AP/268-059, parens 2023, that's the Board of Standards and Appeals. Number 2 is resolution number 2023AP/268-827, paren 2023, Department of Sanitation. Number 3 is resolution number 2023 AP 268-067, 2023, Administration for Children's Services. Number 4 is resolution number 2023 AP/268-019, paren 2023, Office of Management and Budget. Number 5 is resolution number 2023 AP/268-907, paren 2023, New York City Housing Development Corporation. Number 6 is resolution number 2023 AP/268-073, paren 2023, Board of Correction. Number 7 is resolution number 2023 AP/268-482, paren 2023, Brooklyn Community Board. Number 12. Number 8 is resolution number 2023 AP/268, number 009, paren 2023, New York City Employees Retirement System. Number 9 is resolution number 2023 AP/268-030, paren 2023, Department of City Planning. And number 10 resolution is 2023 AP/268-473, paren 2023, Brooklyn Community Board. Number 3.
That was a mouthful. Yeah. Now, do we have a motion to approve the final determination resolutions?
I move that they all be approved.
We have a motion for Commissioner Reese, a second for Commissioner Alcantara. All in favor, say aye. Oh, any
Aye.
discussion? Okay, no discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Abstentions? Hearing none, the motion passes. Next, we have 2023 compliance resolutions. Again, I turn it back to Executive Director Jean Victor.
Yes, we have before you today 2 compliance resolutions for your approval. Number 1 resolution is number 2023 AP/268-067, paren 2023, C36, Administration for Children's Services. And the second one is resolution number 2023 AP/268-261, paren 2023, C37, Department of Youth and Community Development.
I have a question.
Let's do the motions before we get to the question and the
Okay.
discussion. Do we have a motion to approve the 2023
No, I
compliance
have a question
resolution
beforehand.
that is related to the motion? I mean, it's related to the.
Yeah,
Yes. So
I just, the
I
administrator.
move that we. I was
Well,
gonna
there's a
say,
question. Commissioner Reese has a question before we take the motion.
well, I was gonna say, doesn't putting a motion on the floor initiate the discussion?
Yes,
Okay,
but
all
you
right.
have a clarifying question?
It was a clarifying question.
Well, let's take the motion, to be able to deal with the clarifying question.
Okay,
We have a motion to approve.
Yes.
All right, Commissioner Yearwood motions to approve. We'll revisit some of that in old business as to why, for the record, for our minutes, if I can get another motion from someone to approve.
Oh, understood.
Commissioner Alcantara?
motion.
All right, motion to second. Do I have a second? Commissioner Reese?
Second.
yes, I second it.
Second, okay. And,
Now can I have my
yes,
question?
any discussion?
Yes. I note that the final determination for the Administration for Children's Services was made today, as well as the compliance resolution. Does that mean they had nothing that needed to be done?
Correct.
So they were fine going through. So theoretically, we could have voted on both of them at the same time?
Well, the way it's been done here traditionally is that they've been separated. So when you have a final determination, we've done all the final determinations and then we look at the compliance resolutions.
But theoretically, for this one, we could have done both of them at the same time.
Theoretically, yes.
It would be, given that they really, from my naive position, given that that's the kind of action that you'd like to have with everybody, that there would be no reason for compliance because they were in full compliance as you went through the audit, the final determination. I would suggest that you next, to highlight it, combine them when you have somebody who's done both at the same, who's fully compliant when you come up to final determination. It just, it's just for the record, it just,
Combine the compliance resolution and the final determination?
yeah,
For those who have no.
have nothing to, yeah, with nothing for further
Does
review.
that make sense? Too?
We, if you want, do you want us to do like a subsection C?
I would
Okay,
do a subsection C.
okay,
And because it seems to me in your annual report, you could then highlight those few agencies that come through that way, because you'd like that to be the pattern going forward. So it's really sort of giving them higher treatment or whatever,
Yes.
highlighting their excellence.
Like the record show, we've been joined by Commissioner Cruz.
Good morning, everybody. So
Good
sorry for
morning.
delaying.
Good morning. We're on,
Lovely dress.
we're on section 3, subsection B, and the 2023 compliance resolutions, which we've had a motion to approve and we've had a second. We've also had a question and a discussion on the topic. If there's no further discussion, all in favor of the 2023 compliance resolution, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Abstentions? Hearing none, the motion passes. Next, we have section 4, old business. Subsection A, the EEPC bylaws. Again, I want to thank Jennifer Shaw, who's no longer with us as general counsel on this matter, who did a lot of the heavy lifting around putting this together. I was shocked when I asked about bylaws and I was told never had the EEPC had bylaws. So I was happy to undertake this as a hallmark of some of the work that we collectively were able to push forward on this. And I'm happy that we're at a very good point with this document, to the extent that we're even able to vote on it today after a brief discussion. So let's take a motion to approve the bylaws in order to open up for discussion, like Commissioner Yearwood so aptly noted earlier. So we have a motion to approve the bylaws by Commissioner Alcantara. Do we have a second? I have a second by Commissioner Reese. Any discussion? Commissioner Reese.
I have several comments and additions. So on Article 2, purpose, where in line 2, after programs, practices, policies, and procedures, I would like to include and pay scale.
So where it says, so it's all the Ps, instead of 4 Ps, maybe we do 5 Ps. So where it says programs, practices, policies, and procedures, which is really ripped right from the EEPC mandate, charter mandate. The friendly amendment, if there are no objections, is to do comma of pay scales.
Wage.
But then, do we have the right to audit and evaluate the the payment of all employees? I think the parity.
It's for parity.
Okay, yeah.
Also, maybe we got that P.
Maybe-
Parity.
Have a whole P document.
Parity and pay scales.
Yes, Chair.
To add clarity, yeah.
Parity. Pay parity,
Pay parity.
pay parity.
The two of them.
Okay.
We're adding more Ps.
Yeah,
Not the procedure, and then pay parity,
no,
comma, pay parity.
so the and has to go.
So you're a believer in Oxford comma?
Yeah, I love it.
You love it too?
It's one of my favorite
Oh,
things.
Okay.
all right.
I
we all
second the
agree?
Oxford comma. I love the Oxford comma also. Yes.
Hope we all agree.
Yeah, Commissioner Yearwood, you're okay with that amendment in terms of pay parity to be added?
Sure, as long as it's, I mean, if we pulled it directly from the charter, as long as that's fine. I mean,
Well,
If we can do that, that's
you raise an interesting, you raise an interesting point that pay parity itself is not mentioned in the charter as within our mandate. I think this is more of a evolution of where some of the studies and monitoring has grown to in regards to the priorities around pay parity, equity.
It continues to be a cause for, if you will, women. And it seems to me that if we're looking for equal opportunity for women employed or seeking employment with the city government, not to deal with wage is really not to deal with one of the bigger issues that exists. So even if it's not in the charter, Nicole is raising her hand.
no, I'm not disagreeing with adding the point. I was just, making mention that if it's not something, maybe we also look to add that to the charter.
I agree with that.
Yeah, that's a great point.
I agree with that.
And I will add the pay parity issue in our 2020 underutilization report equally starkly visualize the disparity around race and ethnicity when you looked at folks who were supervisors and administrators all the way down
Yeah.
to other type of categories.
Yeah.
So,
No, it is,
all right. So
Core
points,
issue.
yes.
There is the mayor's office, the mayor has a pay equity cabinet that is also looking at pay equity. I just want to make sure that you.
Yeah, thank you.
okay.
Any other
Yes.
comments? Yes.
Okay, now on page 2, under 3.6 conflict of interest, you will notice in the last, the second to last sentence in 3.62, the determination of whether recusal is required shall be made by EPC council. We currently do not have council, so would like to include, or in the absence of counsel by the executive director with guidance from the COIB or law department as needed.
Everybody got that?
Say that again?
We don't have lawyers. So in the absence of counsel, comma, by the executive director,
Okay,
all right? Then it says with guidance from the COIB and then insert or law department as required.
okay. So do we have a law department or what's the general counsel of the law department?
There is a law department for the city.
For the city, okay,
Yeah.
good.
It'll be the law department that will help.
Not our law department.
Correct.
No.
Okay, good.
No. So it's the city's law department and they have an office of counsel within
Okay.
it.
It'll be the city's court too.
Okay.
And I believe that is the only changes that I have proposed. Those two are the only, oh, and I have a word question. if you look under Vice Chair 3.91, at the end of the Vice Chair's 4-year term, they, the Vice Chair is one person, not a they.
It's a they,
It could be a they.
it's a they.
It's the new
This is
day.
the new
Absolutely.
They
way.
neutral.
Yeah,
I feel like we should all be theys, so then that way we don't have to try to figure out he, she, or they. Apparently a lot of she's don't want to give that up, but I think that they is intentional.
Yeah.
And
absolutely.
given our work,
We
And
should
what we-
accept it, they.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
I didn't know I
absolutely.
was a they, but now I know I'm a they. Thank you.
whatever you want to be, and tell us which one we, and you can like write it on your little name tag. What pronoun you prefer?
Oh, okay,
Mm-hmm.
thank you.
Yeah, that was intentional.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I'm still
any
gonna
other-
be she.
okay.
Any other comments, discussion, question? So the only thing I want to point to is that we'll be voting on a clause here that's somewhat contradictory to a concern that Commissioner Reese had, as well as to advisement given by Executive Director Jean Victor regarding payment for service. Commissioners shall be paid for their attendance at public board meetings and other meetings in accordance with the EPC policy guidelines for commissioner payment.
Which
So
number is?
No, no,
Which
the
number
other
is that?
meeting,
This is,
that language is okay when it is going to the city council. And that continues going to
Well, it's
budget
not.
meetings.
that's not clear though here. That's, we're at 3.3.1 compensation.
Okay,
So
okay.
commissioners shall be paid for their attendance at public meetings and other meetings. For example, Commissioner Yearwood graciously joined yesterday's equal employment task force meeting. I in the past have joined that meeting as well. That's the task force that came out of the commission, for which I have received a per diem from in the past for that. And given that this has not been voted on yet, Commissioner Yearwood has every expectation to receive a per diem for her participation. This would reaffirm that.
No, it doesn't
This-
necessarily.
You said, no, it doesn't necessarily. The point here is that I want to make sure we clarify what the necessarily is, because for me, it does. It says commissioners shall be paid for their attendance at public board meetings and other meetings in accordance with the EPC policy and guidelines for commission payment. So a task force meeting, for me, is considered an other meeting.
I don't agree.
You don't agree, but
so how do
I'm
you
asking for
consider
other,
meetings?
Only when you're testifying.
so maybe we should.
I do not, and Jean's memo, if you go through with the guidelines for commissioners' meetings, at the last paragraph as I read it, she does not want to increase the payment. I established that was
I
not,
understand. The reason I raised this is in the context of the memo that Jean wrote, in the context of the vote before us on the bylaws, on the non-agreement of what other meetings are, and that other commissioners have a right to weigh in on this,
sure,
other than yourself and Jean. This is why I'm asking. I'm asking, are we all in agreement that, are we all in agreement that other meetings is not necessarily as clarifying as Commissioner Reese intends to be in relation to solely council hearings? Or is so that, and then also, are we all in agreement that the per diem should solely be restricted to board meeting and hearing meeting? And, or are we still thinking that we want to go with how the practice has been up until now?
I just want it to be standard. I just, whichever way we go, I want it to be something that we all understand and agree on. So like, I went to an EAC meeting before, like, maybe in the fall, and I wasn't paid for it, and that's fine. So like, if we are or we aren't, we need to know. I'm thinking, do the two lawyers, other lawyers in the room agree? Jean and Elaine, do you agree on what this means and what your interpretations of what we should do, your suggestions?
So my interpretation of the language is that you will be paid for whatever we agree to in this document. Other meetings that are within the guidelines. That's how.
Because
that's how I'm
this document references. this
It's
document.
referencing that
Can
document.
we take the 3.31 out? And then commissioners shall be compensated on per diem basis and just add based on the guidelines for commissioner payments?
Yeah, that's, so that just brings us back to what do we want to get paid for here? And as far as I'm concerned, I have been paying for attendance at the EAC meetings. I didn't pay for yours because you didn't stay very long. You stayed for the introductions and then you dropped off. So I just figured.
So then we should probably talk about that too. I think
Well,
that,
if that's going to, if we agree to,
right, that the
meeting should
EAC
be-
meetings, because I wasn't attending it thinking like, oh, I'm paid for this meeting. I was attending it because I knew that, well, I understood that you wanted
Just for
people
some
there.
support.
Yeah, for support, right? So, but, sorry, so I heard from Jean, Elaine, what,
From my perspective, it's an add-on. It is a working meeting for the silo. I don't know, but my sense was the commissioners were there for support to staff and not necessarily part of the working meeting. Now, if that's changed and the commissioners are part of the working portion of it, then probably compensation should flow. My sense was that as different from when you appear at a hearing, you are part of the testimony. Your role is an active role. If there's a meeting with the city council president, which both Alden and I attended, there too, it is an active
Commissioner
participatory role.
Yearwood also attended.
But we didn't get paid for that, is my recollection.
Correct.
We did not get paid for that. So I think we have to have a better understanding of when we get payment as per diem and when it's viewed to be an active participatory role. I believe that the participation in what you have created, which is a working meeting of people of the same level, that we were essentially oversight, not necessarily participants. Now, is my understanding incorrect?
I think that like when Chair Bonilla attended the meeting, he was an active participant and added a lot of value to the meeting.
So what I'm hearing is that if we actively participate, we should get paid, but if we don't, then we don't. Which
Yeah.
that could be a very good, I mean,
I think, going back to just referencing the EPC policy and guidelines, keeping them broader, I think the public board meetings and other meetings may be taken right from the charter. If in the policy and guidelines, the commissioners will be willing to just say per diem for official publicly noticed meetings of the board, right? Publicly noticed meetings, and assuming that, and then only the person from what, then two things, either anyone who attends the publicly noticed hearing of the city council commissioners, or only the commissioners who provide testimony would be receiving. So those are two options there in terms of language. Commissioner O'Connell?
thank you.
so, I look at it, there's two different ways that I'm thinking about this. One is like, okay, legally, formally, what are we saying? And then the other aspect that is mentioning here, but we haven't talked about, is the budget impact, right? And so I want to make sure, so I want us to be very clear on what we're saying, but I also want to make sure that whatever it is that we're saying that people will be paid for, we think about the budget implications.
Well, that's where I was starting from,
Okay,
which is in fact that this activity, which I commend, is an added activity. And it was not anticipated in going forth with the budget. And given the current limitations on budget, which will increase over the next couple of years, not decrease, given the city's own budgetary restraints, it seems to me we ought to be very careful about what we're adding to as a cost.
Yes, and then there's also the issue of equity, right? So there's the budget for the organization, and there's people individual budget. So whether I might have time or a retiree might have time to go and be at a meeting, other people might be giving up something substantial to
And
be at
other
this meeting.
people
And so
might
I don't
never
want
be able
to,
to do it.
right, and so I don't want to foreclose the possibility that one of us or somebody in the future, that it could be have a financial impact and discourage them from coming and providing the added value.
I understand. For this conversation, I agree on that point. For this conversation, I disagree on the point that the budget somehow needs to anchor what it is bylaws and needs to reflect. Because to the extent that maybe 2 months from now, we hear that we get OTPS increases, then do we revisit and say, hey, there's more money, we should pay, you know what I mean? So it should be based as an enduring document as to what we feel should be the articulated public compensation expectations for board members going forward. And
Yes.
Commissioner Yearwood, you have your hand up?
Yes, I echo Commissioner O'Carroll's comments regarding future board members where, some of us do have the flexibility to attend. And maybe we put it in the bylaws that people are paid for those meetings, but also provide an option for us to decline payment.
Oh, that's an
Maybe-
interesting.
Maybe that would be an option where we're saying, you know what, we don't necessarily need to be compensated for coming to this particular meeting. We can forego it, but leave the option for people who may not, be in the same financial position or scheduling position where they are giving of their time to attend. And I think that we should also be clear on whether or not the staff needs our support. So for instance, there was one time I was able to leave the meeting and attend the city council hearing to support the staff, and I was able to provide some assistance. So, that determination, could be made by the executive director where it's like, I need the commissioner's support at this particular meeting.
I have a further addition. It seems to me, with some concern about cost and some concern, probably for your meetings, Jean, you don't need more than one commissioner. And if 2 or 3 of us decide that we want to go to the meeting, Jean ought to have the ability to determine who comes so that you don't have a duplication and an additional cost. It should really be that only one comes to those meetings. I don't think you need more than one.
Other meetings?
To the Employment Advisory Committee.
Yeah, those
It's
are
the
every month,
employment,
right?
it's
Aren't they
the,
every other-
no,
Oh, okay.
just so that we understand, the only thing that concerns me is, and that has raised my opposition, has been the Employment Advisory Commission. It's the only thing that I have had a problem with. I don't have a problem with payment for going to meet with the president of the city council or the mayor's office for that matter. I do have, or going to testify at the budget committee or we have oversight from the social services. Those things I understand because there we're giving testimony. But even there, because if they're just in the audience and only one person's giving testimony, Alden's already said the only person that should be compensated is the person giving testimony. So I'm just essentially following that pattern and saying, you don't need more than one commissioner at any one of your meetings. And you should have the ability of making the selection. If all 5 of us volunteer, you can decide which one you want to see.
Or should that go to the chair to make that determination?
Now
the question is,
no, because the chair might always want to go.
Well, the chair should probably always go.
I don't think so.
But my question is, do we?
The chair should be present, especially at those city council meetings.
Chair's vision.
No, with city council, I agree. We're only talking about Jean's meetings of the support group.
But the,
Oh, no, no,
I
okay.
have a question.
I got confused.
So when we say that one should be paid, but the others are free to participate if they wish to do so at no cost to the commission, right?
Right,
That's what I'm saying.
yes.
Okay.
Now, all this language is not for the bylaws, right? It's for the
Right.
guidelines.
Right, right,
Correct.
right.
So the bylaws, 3.3.1, we're comfortable with that language, right? Just keeping other meetings and then that'll just be more fine tunedly defined in the
And they
guidelines.
got, okay,
Yeah,
that makes sense.
And
then you got most of the sentiment, because then that alters your mind.
Yes, yes.
so,
So can we wrap up what we're gonna put into the guideline?
For the, at this meeting?
Yeah.
It might unduly delay this meeting a lot.
that's strong
We'll
enough.
start discussing
to
the
say
language,
that-
the specific language for the guidelines.
No, but the
I think Sharon
takeaway,
wants to know.
Should be as defined by,
Sorry, we had a
As-
lawyer.
as defined by, not in accordance with, as defined by.
So under,
yeah, as defined by.
you says other meetings in
3.31.
accordance with, and we would like to change it to as
As
defined
defined
by.
by.
Okay, and you want more of,
Just the takeaway.
The big roadmaps about.
Yeah.
So did you capture the essence of the conversation, you know?
Oh, yeah, but I just need one last final piece to tie the whole thing up, and that is who makes the final decision regarding who should attend the employment
I think
advisory
you,
committee?
I actually think you
because
should.
You.
Commissioner Harris,
Well, the
I thought-
employment advisory.
Oh, the EAC.
yeah,
So wait, the EAC is, we decided that the EAC is something that we want to pay commissioners for their attendance at.
That's a good point.
pay, well, what
I
I
thought
took
we-
away
I
was
thought
one
we-
commission.
One
Yeah,
commissioner.
And I know you, I remember for the initial meeting, you wanted our support. So is it valuable to have someone there?
I think it is, it all depends on what is happening for that particular.
So it should be your determination.
Yeah.
Okay,
It should be your determination for you to determine whether or not you need a commissioner there, and at which point you can make it available to all of us and you determine who
okay.
what.
You should be able to
And
tap
that's the
into
language.
who you need.
And that's the language for the guidelines.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes, correct,
Yeah.
correct.
So you can be that this week you want Elaine, but then you want commissioner of care, or you want chair, or.
And I feel like the beauty of the way that Jean has done this is that in the bylaws, if we're referring to the guidelines can change as time
Yeah.
goes forward, whereas the bylaws
Yes.
pretty static.
Yeah.
And, yeah. So that just means that we could take up subsection D.
Oh,
We could take up subsection D to vote on the guidelines at a later meeting.
thank you, thank you.
Any other comments, questions, concerns on the bylaws before we before we take a vote?
So
Commissioner
we're voting
Yule?
on it with my changes and.
Yeah, that's the
We're
way.
voting on it with pay parity. We're voting on it with the change to EEPC council, an executive director with the guidance of COI and law department as needed. We're
We
leaving
changed to 3.31
3
as defined by,
as defined by. We're leaving they.
yes,
We are leaving 3.3.1 except for defined by, and we're leaving other meetings.
Yeah.
And that's it, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay. I move that we approve them as amended.
So we have a motion to approve as amended from Commissioner Reese, Commissioner O'Carroll seconds. All in favor, say aye.
I,
All opposed? Abstentions? Hearing none, the motion passes for bylaws. We agree. Hey. Agreed. All right, next we have procedures for remote attendance. And here, Commissioner Yearwood was why, the first time I was hesitant for,
I got it.
be a co-signer on the motion.
Yep,
until,
I understood.
until we're able to approve procedures for remote attendance. And even then, I think some questions might still arise. So on these procedures, governing, public remote attendance at public meetings, I turn to, Executive Director Jean Victor.
So this matter was before the board at the last meeting, and there were a couple of issues that were still outstanding. The first one was under paragraph 2, extraordinary circumstances, and what could that include?
The extraordinaries, weather should be an extraordinary circumstance. Because some people that are in the city can, tap in the subway and get here. Some of us that are farther away, it's not as simple.
So sorry, to be Lori, should we modify weather to like extreme weather, some
Extreme
weather?
weather,
Okay,
extreme
okay,
weather.
okay,
I agree.
okay.
Now, something that I didn't understand was the next paragraph. And just because this is different from what they do in the agency that I work with, which is when a member is away, like the meeting is being held here, and the member that is not gonna be present, if this person is in a local place where anybody can come and access it, so they will, they will give us, I'm gonna be in such and such library that is open to the public, then they can vote in the meeting. Is that what we're saying?
That is correct.
But the
Okay.
public would have to, it couldn't be a private room at the library, it would have to be something
Yeah,
in the
a
library where
public-
people can go, okay,
Yes,
okay.
a public place that people can come in and talk to him and whatever. That can happen, so,
That's an important point for clarification. So if there is a commissioner that's, let's say, taking the meeting from their apartment or from their home,
Now,
then they
That
can.
way it doesn't work.
they cannot
They
offer a motion, they cannot vote.
No.
Do they, they don't count for quorum?
No,
Okay. So
only if they're outside in a location, they need to let us know,
it's publicly noticed, right?
publicly notice when do we hear, send communications to the public, letting them know that we're meeting
Yes.
here?
We do.
It's on
Okay,
the
so we know.
website.
When
So
we
you have to
send,
give
what did you
notice
say?
of where that.
oh,
where-
that
No, I
person
said
will be
it's
like a
on the
commissioner.
website.
Oh, okay, you said it's on the website.
Okay, and commissioner, whatever, will be in such and such location.
Will be at Central Park.
Yeah. Normally it's under extraordinary circumstances, but they do. Now, my next question is does that location needs to be New York City or this matter, or it could be anywhere in the world?
I would think it would have to be, right?
New York
That's
City.
why I'm like, okay, it will have to be New York City.
I don't think the statute really addresses it, but
Okay,
for the public to be able to access it. you
yeah,
would assume.
that's why I'm
And,
asking.
and the public here is New York City.
Okay,
Unless somebody that's Somos, right? New York City will be there, I'm joking.
but what if it is New York State? Does that count?
I don't think so.
I think it has to be New York
I
City.
don't think so. We
Okay.
can finally get clarity.
I think it has to be the city.
Okay,
So it would have to be, Park in the Bronx
okay.
and Portland.
Find some space.
It's close enough to the Westchester border.
It is.
I can still submit the question.
I don't understand why, if a commissioner is in a remote location that is not open to in-person physical attendance by the public, why his vote will count.
So it doesn't count, I think.
It does count if there's a quorum in a physical location, according to this.
Which one are you?
What was it saying?
I'm looking at
That's
three.
opposite.
Shall not count to a quorum, but may not participate and vote if there is a quorum.
Number 3. Okay.
Yeah,
So
number
Nicole
3.
can vote
Yeah,
because we're here.
so that's the opposite of what I thought.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
That's why I'm asking.
Nicole, you can vote.
Uh,
She loves voting.
After we,
She can vote, but it's not counted toward the quorum.
remember, we still have the extraordinary circumstances.
But the quorum, but it's not counted to create the quorum.
To create.
But once the quorum is created,
She can
then
still
she
vote.
can vote.
Yeah,
So,
is that right? I didn't know if it was a typo. That's why I
you
asked.
know what, it probably, to clarify it, shall not count toward creation of a quorum. Just to be clear, just to be doubly clear.
Yeah, that doesn't actually sound right.
Yeah.
I think we might have to, because the creation of a quorum is actually what sets the bar for what passes or doesn't.
Right,
So then if you add an additional vote after creation of a quorum, then that
it's
doesn't.
okay,
No, that's what I'm saying, it doesn't.
doesn't make sense to
Yeah,
you.
it doesn't, it flies in the face of Robert Rules of Order. Are you gonna set a quorum and then have an additional vote outside of the quorum that was set?
Right, because the quorum is a foundational thing, like, can we
Yeah.
actually have this meeting? It's like, okay,
Yeah.
we can have this meeting.
Well, for example, today, we had a quorum before Nicosi came in.
Right, because
She
you
did
had.
not establish the quorum, and
Yeah.
yet her vote counts.
Well, but
But when she
I'm
came,
here, but I'm in person. So the question is, if you had a quorum, you had 3 people here, and then would this other person be able to count towards voting?
Yes, but I just used you as an example, so we had 3 here, and you
Which
came
meant you
in
could start the meeting, yeah.
to start the meeting, so we had a quorum, and now we have an additional vote. You didn't
Right.
count toward the quorum.
Right, but I can't count towards the vote because
You
I'm
can-
actually
So,
here.
can she, that's really almost no difference.
So how do we,
I think
right, 'cause I
that
think we're
that's
all-
the difference, because if you're part of the, she's part of the, so let's say that we had a room full of people, they get to see her come in and participate, and she joined late, but she's here. It is when you're not able to, these people access the commissioner, does she have a right, even though we have quorum to vote? And in where I'm at, they don't vote. So that's why I'm confused. I'm asking not because of whatever, but I know that with us, unless they're in a public space, their vote doesn't count.
Oh, with the
Obviously, our
state
district is
agency.
larger, yeah,
Okay,
for state
okay,
agency.
okay, okay.
But if they are, like I said, the example in the library, that people can have access, then they get to vote. But if they're not, if she's in her home because she's sick, then she wouldn't be able to vote. But she's able to participate, and
Okay,
so
I
that's
think
the
there's
distinction.
the significant clarity that needs, I think we should get the law department to weigh in the language before we vote on it. Because while it makes sense for a body of 5, I'm thinking, the logic of this in larger bodies is that people cannot be there accounted for quorum, but then they can weigh in
Yeah.
as a vote later on, which changes what it takes to pass a
Yeah.
resolution.
particularly if it's a close vote.
Yes, exactly.
So if the remote person is the 3, as part of the 3, and you've got 3 to 2, then it really does raise an issue.
Right, so we have to. Didn't want to do this because I know we've been working on this. Gonna have to kick it back.
Yes, but I think we've cured at least one piece of that, and that is to get Commissioner Alcantara's schedule so we can deal with scheduling it around her other commitments. So we don't have to worry about the loss of her vote.
Commissioner Yearwood?
Yeah, I was gonna say that I think that that's the case for the community boards where you can have the meeting, you have to have a quorum in person for the meeting to happen, but other people can participate virtually. But it's just you have to have the members, enough members for quorum in the in-person venue.
Yeah, but the question here is that the individuals who in the community board cannot participate virtually, here we want to allow for opportunity to participate virtually. And the vote would be a vote outside of a vote that was accounted for quorum. So the meeting began without
The
that.
vote doesn't count for quorum. It's not a vote for quorum. It's the number of people present. So it's being present and then there's voting, which are separate things.
So you're saying, I see what you're saying, so.
So in order for the
determination if
board-
something wins or not is just the votes cast at present.
Right. Because a quorum is, when you talk about quorum, it's the number of people physically present for a meeting to take place.
Right.
You can have a quorum of people there. You can have 3 people there and then all 3 people don't have to vote all the time on everything that happens. So what I'm saying is for community board meetings, because I do remember this coming up, when the meetings law was changing because we were coming out of the state of emergency, they said that physically, in order to have virtual meetings, a quorum of the board had to be present. So a majority of board members had to be at the community board meeting physically in person in order for them to be able to conduct business, period, right? So it's similar to what happened today. And then some people can attend virtually, even though, some people have to be there in person. So the quorum has to be in person, and then you can have people be there virtually.
But people can always be virtually because this is open to the public. Once it needs to vote.
Well, I mean, members of the boards, I'm sorry, members of the board.
So then they get to vote, Nicole?
I can check that. I do
Okay.
believe so, because I know community board folks, and especially the community board I was dealing with, they're not gonna be disenfranchised.
No.
I
They wanna yell at you.
understand that the question of quorum to begin the meeting is separate from the question of whether a resolution passes or not,
Yeah.
because it's based on those present to take a vote, but everyone does take a vote. Even if they don't, then that's either a recusal or abstention or something, but it still counts as a vote.
Right,
But the problem, the separate problem we have is a requirement that the public be in attendance at our meetings, which I think differs from the community board's activities. I don't know that they have the same legal requirement. We need to be open to the public. Theoretically, if someone knocked at the door here, hasn't happened recently, and said they wanted to come into this meeting, we would have to open the door and have them be here and observe the meeting in person.
Community boards fall under the same open meetings
yeah,
statute.
same thing.
The same thing. Community boards fall under the same law. So based on Commissioner Yu's clarification, are
We should clarify it.
we comfortable voting on this then? It doesn't have to go to the law department, or we still would like the law department opining on it?
Are there other things that in here that we can check off like that? Before we,
Yeah, actually, we should run it by the law department. The whole document.
right, so then maybe let's go through the other things in that way.
They might pick up something that we don't need.
Mm-hmm. Right in front of you.
So the other thing too, Chair, that I noticed in the law is that the reason for the person, the commissioner, not being able to attend the meeting has to be reflected in the minutes.
Not only that, I see here that Commissioner Yearwood's votes, even with extraordinary circumstance provision, wouldn't count if she doesn't allow us to see her face. So I see here in section 10 that we must be able to see you.
Oh, so we know it's not somebody,
Hello there.
so that we
So-
know it's not somebody impersonating you.
Yeah, so I guess it's the whole idea that you have to be able to see the person.
Looks like it's a public place, though. There's a table there.
So cute.
To view such meeting by video,
Okay,
and to participate in proceedings by video conferencing in real time where public comment or participation is authorized.
okay. So you're forcing.
So I don't think we should, I don't think we could necessarily, we don't need to necessarily spend more time on the specifics of this, because we're going to send it to the law department to get clarity or fine and just review
Right.
language in general, okay?
Okay,
All right, so no vote taken on this. Next, we have, section C under 4, budget fiscal year 24.
Did we bring you a crying towel?
So this is kind of listed under old business, but it's, but
new
there have been a
business.
number of things happening, since the last time we met. Obviously, we all received the news that, there's gonna be a hiring freeze coming up and that the city is requiring that we provide them with $64,000 as part of the latest peg.
what did you provide?
Well, from our budget.
Mm.
So my response to that is that we don't have the money. I mean, it's going to be the same response that I've given in the prior asks, that we do not have anything close to that amount. We do have a meeting on for this Friday with OMB tomorrow to where they will provide us with more instructions of what we have to do, but my official response is going to be that that is beyond what we have. Now, I think that they will probably want to take whatever salary savings that we realize from the loss of personnel, and that may go and satisfy the requirements. That's what we've normally had happen to us in the past. So for example, with no executive agency counsel, that we're realizing the savings on salary, and then they take those
That's
savings.
great.
So that's really the only place that I see that we would have.
But then you don't have a budget going forward for
No, she does have a budget. You mean for the gap time,
a gap.
Just for the gap time, yeah, whatever's accruing right now.
right? Because the salary and the
It's not being
benefits,
paid,
right?
and benefits are not being paid.
Maybe we could rent out the conference room.
Benefits.
I'm just like, hot desk, it's ridiculous.
It's a nice room.
Yeah.
So, so I did want to talk about an expenditure, and that is the badges. And I think we sent everybody a copy of the quote that I got.
Okay, so wait, so you jumped to
What's-
B.
I just need to know about the budget.
Well, I'm a little confused about the badges because doesn't DCAS issue us our badges?
How did I get
She's
mine?
talking about, wait, you're not talking about this.
Yeah, you're
I
talking
saw a
about
picture
those
of the
badges?
badge, so this we got from, we got this from DCAT?
DCAS.
Yeah.
I didn't get it back.
No, there was a you could go across the street, they gave us a form.
Ah, okay.
And they'll take.
I'm not talking about that kind of
I
badge
know, you're talking about the badge, it was in the picture, like a
that
police
Commissioner
badge.
Reese has.
That I
Right.
have. I have no idea how it was paid for.
But like, so I saw that, but I don't like, what does it functionally do?
Nothing.
Oh, it's very cool.
Commissioner, it's just Commissioner Reese had the badge that said commissioner on it. And then we inquired as to how the other commissioners could get such a badge, but I thought it was through DCAS, so this is something else. Commissioner Yearwood?
No, I was gonna say that I thought DCAS issued those.
Yeah,
Where, George?
because they're saying we stopped being commissioner.
Sorry.
So how much
DCAS
are the
needs
badge?
to, if we stop being commissioner, DCAS
I
needs to
forgot.
procure that badge away from us.
Maybe they
Yeah.
have some value.
I wouldn't even know who to check with.
I would start right with the commissioner of DCAS.
Okay.
But if it doesn't do anything, and we don't necessarily
No.
want it, should we like,
Yeah, I definitely don't want to pay for it. I thought that it came.
We don't want to pay for it, that's for sure.
I don't want to pay for it. It was something that I thought was issued by DCAS to Commissioner Reese. there's no recollection really as to how.
I have no idea
But
how
then
I
this
got
is
it.
something that you have, and then when you leave the commission, you have to turn back.
If it's through DCAS, yeah.
Otherwise, buy it as a souvenir.
Yeah, yeah.
I think it is a souvenir deal.
It's a souvenir.
Wow.
Commissioner Yearwood?
I was gonna say, I definitely don't think that we should buy them, but if they're officially issued, I think we should have them. Elaine, you don't remember anything about how you obtained the badge?
All I remember is that the chair at the time wanted them, and we all got them. As to how he and the executive director went about facilitating the acquisition, I have no knowledge or even memory. I don't know. One day I had it, and he really wanted it for identification. We were not in this building. We were down off Lower Broadway, almost at Morris Street, in a building, and it was just easier to flash that and get in and get through security.
Oh, so basically the same purpose with this.
The same as that. So essentially, it was just a way of getting through security and not being stopped.
Get one of them.
So it indeed had that, if you will, it had that merit.
Yeah.
That being said, you don't want to hear about what happened to me this morning downstairs with the DCAS.
Yeah, it
police.
takes
Oh, it
whatever.
worked for me. I just flashed it. and went
But,
through.
I don't-
Confident.
but I think,
For me, they give me a hard time all the time.
They give you a hard time
They
all the
give me a
time.
hard time.
to punctuate what Commissioner Yearwood was saying, that we would like to pursue the Commissioner of DCAS to see if the same commissioner badge afforded to other commissioners of bodies. That is what we're interested in.
Right, because that would
I'll
mean.
tell you what, I will
Other
bring mine
commissioners have
in.
this? I mean, have what she has.
Why don't I bring mine in to the next meeting so you can take a picture of it?
I took a picture of it.
Oh,
I
you
have
did?
it. Yes.
Okay,
Of course.
Ah,
Or was that the
Perfect.
picture that was in the email?
Yes.
Right. Because I would say that, because that I would feel like would be something we would sign for and then have to return at the end of our service.
Yeah.
Exactly right, exactly right. Having had one of those badges, they're very good to getting in and out of parades.
Exactly. I don't know what, I
Okay.
don't know what Commissioner O'Carroll was talking about. We don't need it. I was like,
Oh,
girl,
these are nice.
I'm just saying, like, will the police not stop and frisk you if you have it? I mean,
Maybe they won't.
maybe. I just want to know, you know, I'm in a sustainability,
you can probably
environmentalist.
get in
I
and
wanna have
out
a whole
of
bunch of
the
extra
city hall
stuff.
using that as well.
Okay, okay.
When?
So next,
City hall.
Then I would love to have one.
so,
If I don't have to go
I'll
to
check with
the
the commissioner
hazard
of
here.
DCAS.
then so anything else on budget 2024, fiscal year 2024? Besides the news on. Everybody saw the memo, right? 5% and another 5%.
I got it from so many different places.
Yeah, that's pretty drastic. Then we already discussed the policy and guidelines for commissioner payment. On the new business, we already discussed commissioner badges. Next, we went out of order there, but now we'll go to sexual harassment prevention training. The question there was whether we wanted to do the trainings on our own time through the website, or whether we wanted individuals that have been commissioned to do such training here within the EPC to separate the trainings between two time frames during commission meetings. So any preferences?
I thought we had agreed that it was gonna be after the next meeting, but
Yeah.
it wasn't this meeting, but it was the October one.
Well, that's what we were I was getting a sense of where people were with that. if
I
they wanted
prefer
that,
to
but
be here.
You
so
prefer
it's
not remote, you prefer here?
Yeah, because then,
And
It's easier,
Over the
yeah.
course of two days, or two sessions, or the same day, both sessions?
how long are?
They're an hour.
Each?
Yeah.
Okay. So I prefer over two
Anybody else?
sessions.
sessions.
Two
Two
sessions.
sessions?
Not the same day, but one session and then the following meeting.
When is
yeah.
the October meeting?
October 17th.
17?
That's
Ah,
next
that's
year.
first 34.
November 2nd, I think.
next meeting is November 7th.
Okay.
November
Would
7th.
that put us out of compliance, or would there be any fines or
No, no,
anything
no,
coming?
no,
to
no,
us?
no.
It is by December 31st, right?
December
Yeah.
31st.
All right. Good, all right, so next we have commission meeting dates. You all have that before you.
Yeah.
You can lock it into your calendars.
What I'm gonna do is, compare these to our, ensure that there are no conflict or anything. These are Thursdays, all of them?
Yes.
Yes, they're all Thursdays.
Okay,
But if all your meetings are Thursdays.
yeah, they're Thursdays.
Why don't we just look at Tuesdays? Does Tuesday
Well,
work for
Well,
everybody?
let's see, maybe it doesn't.
Yeah, let me
affect-
see, yeah.
Let's see
Okay.
first if there's,
Tuesdays don't work for me if at this time.
but we're not there yet.
Last year, even though they're the same Thursday, only 2 or 3
Or a problem.
were a problem. And then I took those 2 online, and then the others I came here. I'll check today, they're checking the days for me.
Okay,
Next, we have the section 6, the audit update, status of 2023 audits.
So, yeah,
Sorry,
that's me
Director,
again. Just to give you a brief update on where we are, we're continuing to move forward with our audits. I am very, very hopeful that we are going to get through all of our agencies for this year, within this year. I don't see a reason why we wouldn't, although we do have a few agencies, mostly some community boards in Brooklyn that have not responded to our request for their audit documents. We have moved forward with them, and we will be spending some time trying to reach out to them and to compel some compliance. But otherwise, I think we are still managing to be in decent shape. We are losing one of our EEO program analysts on tomorrow, this week, and so we'll be down to 2.
Is that a
and
position?
how the hell, you've got to rehire in that kind.
Oh, yeah, we've already posted.
So what is the deal? As long as you started before October, you can do it?
Yes.
What is the reason why they're giving for leave? I heard,
He took a position from a civil service list.
also these positions are not civil service.
The EEO program analysts are non-competitive, so they have
Okay.
not taken any exams.
Okay.
He took an exam, they reached him, and he
Yeah.
accepted.
If they're
So
gonna
you
be,
don't have the same protection. They don't have the same protection under the civil service law that others have. Is there any way that you can make it into a civil service?
yeah,
That's something
First of
that-
all, do you want to? And secondly, can you?
It's something we can look at and start thinking about.
As long as it doesn't
Because it
delay
might
the
help
hire.
you with retention.
but
As long as it
you,
doesn't delay the hiring.
Yeah.
October 1st,
Right, that's,
which is right around the corner.
yeah,
Well, we don't have to have the person on board by October 1st, but we have to have the system, we have to have the person in the NICAP system going through the process. So we have the posting up. I think we're okay. Because I specifically checked with OMB about that.
how many people applied to the?
Oh, we just put it up this week.
Okay.
Next we have section, any other comments, questions on this? Next we have section 7, research update. A new face, at least for today, Russell.
Do you want to talk about the Employment Advisory Committee or you just want?
No, you can.
So we had our most recent EAC meeting yesterday with some interesting presentations from the Mayor's Office of Equity and BCAS. And also our next meeting is in November, and at the time it was an open question whether we would continue with the committee, and there seemed to be consensus among the members that they wanted to continue, and so we're proposing dates for 2024.
Why,
Why do they want to continue?
why did they want to stop?
No, it's not that a determination had been made to stop, it was just, we only had dates through November. And then we had left it open whether to, because it was new. And so we wanted, we didn't want to assume that people would want to go on beyond a year. There wasn't much discussion about why people wanted to continue, but my guess is people are finding it helpful and
Is
useful.
it the communication between their own silos?
That's my guess. Yeah, I think so because yesterday, for example, we had a presentation because DCAS has posted a new jobs board. The website is completely changed if you want to apply for jobs for the city, and so it was just helpful for those of us to see how they went about that. And we also had a good presentation from the new commissioner of the Mayor's Office of Equity on all the different work that they're doing. So my guess is people find it helpful that they're talking to people and agencies that they should be communicating with, but don't always do so, is my guess. But we didn't really have a discussion as to why. People just seem to think, yeah, we should keep going.
And what level is coming? Is it deputies or below that? I'm just curious.
Both. So we've had the DCAS commissioner, Dawn Pinnock, has been to at least 3 or 4 of them. And then there are deputy commissioners like Sylvia Montalban and Cadian have been coming to more than half of them, and then some lower level staff too. And then we have CUNY, and Chamberlain has been, I think, at every meeting. Then also from the law department and there's one other one I'm forgetting.
OLR
And Office of Labor
and CCHR.
Relations and CCHR. We've all been to almost all of them. August was a little quiet, but that's to be expected, I think, or July when we had the last one. But no, the attendance has been pretty good. So people seem to find it helpful.
And now, just to add onto that comment, the Commissioner Sherman from the Mayor's Office of Equity is going to be a member and attend
Yeah.
as well.
No, it was just curiosity as
No,
to what the
it's a fair question.
attraction was. And it does sound as though it's communication.
I think that's a big part of it. And I think it's definitely helped on our end because in the past, before my time here, it sounded like DCAS and the EEPC weren't always
On the same page. to say the
collaborating,
least.
and that since I've been here, that's been very different.
Thank you for that update. Again, thanks to Commissioner Yearwood for the presence and participation in it as well. I know a lot of people were happy to see a familiar face there as well, Commissioner Yearwood. Next, we have local law 13 report update.
Just a status update that we are proceeding. I don't know if you all remember, but last year we published 2 separate reports, one for CUNY and one for the city. We'll be doing the same this year. And I think for the first time, I expect that they'll be published on time. There is a review process that's partly out of our hands, so I can't guarantee it, but I am quite confident that they will be done by February 15th of 2024, both.
Do you have any surprises right now?
No, things are looking more or less like we did last year, which is a story in and of itself. But the data have not changed a ton. Slight improvements for some groups and slightly worse off for others. But things look pretty constant compared to last
Now,
year.
there was a report that there were lots of unfilled positions.
Yeah,
You have the 5% cut coming.
Yeah.
So I assume the number of unfilled positions will probably increase rather than decrease.
probably. We can't always look at that because the data that we get are only the people they actually hire. We don't have data that compares what an opening is, whether it's vacant. We can look at the overall number and see are the number of people employed going up or down. But I can't tell you the number of vacancies because we don't have that available to us. But certainly, I think you're going to see a slowdown in hiring, but yet the disparities still
Will increase.
continuing or increasing.
And you can't go by that because the vacancy is an artifact of definition. If the full-time
Right,
number
yeah.
is taken away, it's no longer vacant, therefore the vacancy rates are no longer proper.
Right,
because
Right.
point.
The position's not there to begin with.
Yeah. Exactly. One other note related to local law 13, just in the past couple of weeks, and partly because I think of the EAC and this breaking down of silos, we received NICAP's data from DCAS, which will allow us to do much more interesting and fine-grained analyses of personnel changes in the city. The data are pretty good. They're a bit of a mess. So this is something that's going to take months to work through and clean up and structure in a way that we can use. But I think it'll allow for some really interesting possibilities in the coming year.
Thank you.
Is it timely data or
Yeah.
still?
Up to date
Okay.
and going back to at least 2000.
Ah,
Next, we have a pilot program with city agency to remedy underutilization.
Yes. So I don't remember exactly where we were at the last commission meeting, but this is where we're doing an analysis of the efforts of an unnamed city agency in terms of their work in DEI and EEO. We have interviewed several leadership staff at this agency to talk to them about their work in EEO and their assessments of their agency's diversity efforts and inclusion efforts. We are now taking steps to have in-depth interviews with what I would call mid-level staff, like middle managers and supervisors and such, to get an assessment of their own thoughts on how their agency is addressing things like underutilization and EEO and things like that. And these conversations are pretty in-depth. We sit down with each participant for up to an hour, and almost all of them have been the full hour. And we're in the very early stages, but we're learning a lot of interesting things about what this agency is doing. And now we're going to be talking to people more on the receiving end of this and talking to them about their assessment. So it's a slow process because to schedule interviews and sit down and talk to people and transcribe and do the notes takes time, but we are proceeding.
Is the pilot program to understand what they do to better the situation, or just to understand what is not happening?
So the goal ideally, and I don't know if we're going to be able to do this, is to see what works, right? If you are trying to diversify your workforce and provide equal opportunity, there's lots of different options for things that you can do. And we're trying to identify those programs and efforts that are more effective and those that maybe aren't. So it's a challenge to do because we're hearing anecdotal evidence from these participants. This agency does quite a bit. And so it's hard to disentangle what was working and what's not, but that's what the goal is. And exactly what we'll be able to do with the data that we have is still a work in progress, but that's what we're working towards.
Can you share, Commissioner Reese?
it seems to me that given the Supreme Court's ruling in the education space, that essentially has corporations beginning to not look at diversity as much, and that this city and we are committed to diversity, it may be time to encourage our mayor, even in this time of a cutback, to speak out on the commitment to diversity. And maybe raise that at your next meeting with the people there so that you have a combined group of supporters, if you will, entities that are dealing with diversity, to encourage there to be a public statement on diversity. I mean, what should be understood is that the city itself, which is the largest employer in the city, continues to be committed to diversity and inclusion.
I think that's a better topic left for the Employment Advisory Committee.
That's what I meant.
Yeah.
That's what I meant.
Oh, I thought you meant for the pilot organization.
No, I meant
He
the
was-
Employment Advisory Committee.
Yeah.
Because he was on topic on the pilot organization.
Yeah.
All right, so, any other comments or questions on this?
I just want to add to, just to piggyback on what Russell was saying. Part of the reason that I wanted to do this is to see what's working and what's not working, but also to see if they're doing everything that is, reasonably, that can reasonably address underutilization. And if they aren't, we can make those recommendations
Right.
that they should be doing them.
But you also will get a learning from them. They have lots of employees, and looking at it from a large agency, I think probably depending on what you do, that the next thing should be looking at a couple of small agencies where there's less ability because there are less openings, and how they manage it in that complex situation to do it. Because that's a little harder.
It is. It definitely is.
And I assume you're also looking at levels.
Oh, of course. Different titles and then
Different
different levels
titles,
within the
because
titles.
I mean, the letter that we have received from EMS,
Yeah,
or arguing that they are underpaid and it's dealing with the compensation based on the titles and the valuation. Gene and I having an interesting conversation before as to whether or not property is more important than people. Because if you look at it, the firemen save property and people, and these people only save lives. So obviously, property is more important than lives.
I think, Commissioner Yearwood?
I will agree with Elaine's assessment. That's all I want to say.
That people are more important than property?
They are, yes,
All right.
but not always dealt with as such.
Anyway, Nicole, you also received a personal letter from a woman by the name of Helen Northborough
Yep.
in Staten Island, and they all include the protest by EMS for more, for increased salary. And each of us has an addressed letter asking us to do that. It seems to me it's a misunderstanding of our role. We are not advocates.
Yeah.
We really are merely people who audit what is. And I personally, separate and apart from what the board may do, but I personally will respond to the letter, just saying to her that while I'm sympathetic, we are merely auditors. We're not advocates.
Commissioner Yearwood, you're also, when you procure the letter, you're gonna appreciate the John Lewis stamp.
It's a beautiful stamp.
You're
It's
gonna
my first time
appreciate the
seeing it.
John Lewis stamp, so please make sure you open the letter in a way where you could preserve the stamp and keep it as a collector's item.
Well, speaking
Not
of
only
the
that, my stamp wasn't postmarked.
Assuming what? Oh,
no,
really? Oh, give me your letter.
I can't. So the actually on Tuesday, they will do an unveiling at the African Burial Ground Monument at 290 Broadway for the John Lewis stamp.
Oh, how
Share
lovely.
those details.
But- And and it's already in circulation, so we have it.
That's great.
That's awesome. In terms of the pilot program, when you get a chance, if, you can send me and other commissioners of interest, just a little bit, it could be just less than a page on your methods. I know it's probably more of an open-ended emergent study, probably qualitative case study, but a little bit on your methods and just, a little bit on what are some of the guiding questions that I know you're not necessarily asking all stakeholders the same question,
Right, of
but
course.
just generally, what are the guiding questions that you kind of are asking of all stakeholders?
Sure, absolutely.
Any other, and nothing else on this agenda item? The last agenda item is a motion to adjourn public session and go into executive session for the purposes of discussing personnel matters. Do we have a motion?
I move.
We have a motion by Commissioner Reese. We have a second by Commissioner Alcantara. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Abstentions? Hearing none, the motion passes. Please let us know when we're no longer live streaming so that we can